Welcome back to another episode of Braves Bullpen. Hello, everybody. I'm Ryan Siegel, joined alongside with Gardie Her and Gardie. I know we've been off for 2 weeks here, and there has been a lot to talk about in the Braves organization, most notably reigning National League MVP Ronald Acuña Jr. Tearing his ACL on his non-surgically repaired ACL. That's key to note. Non-surgically repaired ACL. And in the past 2 weeks, the Braves are 7-6. So right around that 500 mark. In the last 2 weeks here, they took 2 of 3 against Oakland, beat the Boston Red Sox last night, dropped 2 of 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I guess the real killer was taking only 1 of 3 at home against the Washington Nationals. And Guardy, obviously we talk a lot pre-show, but it's never a good thing when you're losing the MVP.
No, it's not. And yes, a lot has gone on in the last 2 weeks. I thought you were going to talk about me moving, but I think a torn ACL to the reigning NL MVP is a little bit bigger. But at the same time, you're seeing Adam Duvall and Jared Kelenic kind of step up right now into that hole, trying to fill it. And yeah, you never want to lose to the Nationals, but at the same time, we're still not at Chicken Little levels. I don't think, at least personally, we are there. You can disagree with me all you want, but I think that we're still sitting there. We still have one of the best records in baseball. We still have only we're sitting in second place in the loss column in the National League. So yeah, okay, 7-6, not great. It was better than the 2-6 from the week prior when we last spoke.
Yeah, I'm not sounding the alarm bells just yet. I really don't think that this is something where you should be. I mean, you're tied in the loss column with the LA Dodgers, who are spending what feels like $1.5 billion on their baseball club. But I think at the end of the day, given everything that they've got going on, it's really been, about as good as you could ask for. It's tough to compare. Obviously, we saw how great the team was last season, and you sit there and go like, well, they're not playing the same. They're not playing the same. They're not playing the same. They were like almost 110 win baseball team last year. The team batting average was 283. The lowest batting average on the team was like season 260. Like I think that it's something where you can't really sit there and go, you know what? We have a problem. Yes, obviously losing your reigning NL MVP, a guy who the first one to go 40-70 with 40 home runs and 70 stolen bases. Like, yeah, obviously that is going to hurt you. But I think the Braves have shown, if anything, they have depth at multiple positions, especially in the outfield. I mean, we see it all the time. And now obviously with Jared Kelenic kind of being like the breakout star of the team this year. So I think that there's no reason to lose the faith just yet. I don't think we're at that point. I think the biggest real, I guess, bright spot also is, starting pitching. Starting pitching, we were obviously worried at the start of the year, and Bryce Elder being hurt obviously doesn't help whatsoever. Or sorry, being on the 40 man, getting sent down, excuse me, not being hurt. Jesus. Boy, do I not know how to read my notes. But you look at guys, Max Fried at 30, he's got a 2.93 ERA. He's 6-2. Chris Sale looking like Chris Sale from the Chicago White Sox, or I guess should we call him the Nashville White Sox now? Is that we can come up to that for a later date. But he's 8-1 with a 306. Charlie Morton, once again, a below a 4. A 3-2 record. And Ronaldo Lopez throwing a 173, also a 3-2 record. But Guardy, we pointed out, and I just mentioned it with the last two, with Lopez and Morton, only 3-2 records. Both guys have started 10 and 11 games. And I think we're going back to our old standby. We seem to do it every year, and it seems to always reign true. Guardy, I'm going to bring you out of the bullpen for this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's the bullpen, and I think to just rewind to something you said earlier, the reason that last year was so great was because we had that team batting average around the 280s. So we were winning so many games at that 10-7, 11-8 marker. It was a beautiful band-aid with batting over the relief pitching staff because, hey, okay, AJ Minter is going to get up there and blow a 2-run lead in the 7th. Well, we're going to score 4 in the 8th, and it's going to be a non-starter. But you look at even the 7 and 6 that we've gone since we've last talked, and 4 of those 6 losses are attributed to the bullpen. 2 of them to the same guy, Ray Kerr, who has a career 5.33 ERA over only 49 innings pitched career. So that's counting those 2 losses too. That's not a guy that you're wanting to hand the ball off to in the 6th or 7th inning come August or come September. So I think it comes back all the way back to what we've been talking about since the jump, which is relief pitching. But at the same time, as we're getting back kind of even into where we really started in 2022, what happened? Ronald Acuña Jr. went down. We were at 500 at the All-Star break. But what happened next? We won a freaking World Series. So even thinking of it in that frame of mind, I'm not scared at all. I will say Alex Anthopoulos, actually go and get a real relief pitcher at the deadline. There's gonna be a losing franchise that has one to give up for probably a bucket of balls and the washing machine. So please do it this year. Don't do that flirt. Well, we got our roster. Nice to pick up one guy.
Yeah, it's wild to think about when we talk about just kind of everything going on with the team. And we talk, and to your point, we talk about every year, go out and get a guy in the bullpen. Go out and get a guy in the bullpen. Just get one. It doesn't even need, like, it's not a closing issue. Raisel Iglesias is fine. He is not the problem. You know, it helps when you have a closer who's throwing 2-4-2 and he's got 15 saves in 18 games finished. And he's only, and again, throwing that 2-4-2, he is not your issue at hand. Getting the ball to him. And I know we've seen CC Sabathia and the starting pitchers, obviously now the mindset of I'm going to make sure I hand the ball to my closer is gone with all of the analytics. I'm sure if you ask Chris Sale, he'd go out and throw 8 innings if you needed him to. And if that's the point we're getting to, like, so be it, Snit, like, throw the starters in an extra inning or 2. You have veteran guys who can do it. But spinning quickly away from Braves news, we have some big baseball news, I guess, just public address. Angel Hernandez, we haven't talked about it on the show, retired from the MLB after one would call a highly controversial career. And it's wild to think about this. This is a guy that sued the MLB because he was getting passed over for crew chief for discrimination. And the MLB had to come out in court and just say, no, you're a bad umpire. And the MLB won. So just to,
They
and he was
they literally brought up the ref the umpire scorecard things, and we're like, no, this is the zone you call in federal court on a no, it's not Title IX, Title VI suit. That is, talk about one of the biggest losses that you could catch, pun intended.
Yeah. So with Angel, and he was an equal opportunity bad umpire. He was bad at third base. He was bad at first base. He was bad behind the plate. And I just did a quick search because, you know, Umpire Auditor has accuracy percentages. Angel Hernandez, in terms of accuracy, was right around 93.2, which for those of us keeping score at home, that puts him, let's see, 61, 2, 3, 4, 65th, tied for 65th out of 87 umpires. Which again, like 93.2, you still think, oh, that's a good number. No, Laz Diaz is above him, who's arguably considered the second worst umpire. The only guys that are the really, really bad ones, CB Buckner, Manny Gonzalez, Hunter Wendelstad, who's the only guy who still rocks a blazer.
Respect.
But the lowest is 91.6 in terms of accuracy. And I get it. Like, obviously, balls and strikes is where you're really going to make your money in terms of accuracy versus safe and out calls. So Like 93 is a very low number. That means in the grand scheme of things, if there were 100 calls in a game, you are getting 7 of them wrong. And just for context, Will Little is currently the top umpire in baseball. He has got an accuracy percentage of 97.9. So again, when we come and his minimum accuracy, his off night was 96.7.
Jeez.
So if we want to talk about the grand scheme of Angel Hernandez and how bad he was, his worst accuracy was 98.6. His best night was 96.1. His best night was still worse than Will Little's worst night. Just to add context to this conversation of you're in the MLB, 93% with all of the technology, with the fact that you've been in the game for decades. And this
your
is
your job is to call balls and strikes like that. Like that's your profession.
And as a referee in another sport, if I missed 7 calls a night, I'd be fired.
Yeah.
By whoever I worked for if I missed 7 calls a night out of 100. But he is now gone. The world can sleep a little better. There are still some umpires surprisingly worse than him. We just don't know their names to the same extent. But with that, and I know we kind of ended on that or took a quick tangent, but just to circle back to the Braves, just so we can kind of give a look ahead of where we're going to be going next. The Braves are currently in Boston playing the Red Sox, where they play 4 games against the Nationals and then 3 in Baltimore against a very, very good Baltimore Oriole team. But like we say, this is a fan show. We want to hear from you, whether at home, on the road, in Truist Park like Gardie, out of Truist Park like me. We want to hear from you. We are still on the Quikrete hunt.
Still haven't heard nothing.
We are still on the Quikrete hunt. Saying
and
that
I don't want to see a Lowe's receipt that says you bought some Quikrete, like, because that's still not doing anything for me. Like, I want to know of some mass sale. Like, if you're a Lowe's wholesaler or whole buyer, whatever that term is, who goes out, I want to see your fucking books. I want to know what you're doing and how you're paying them, because I still don't believe it.
Absolutely right. But with that, as we stay on that hunt for Quikrete, stay tuned for next week's episode of Braves Bullpen.
I love you, Blippi.